I forgot to finish my story about the lawyer and this motorcycle because I think it's funny. And the hypocrisy within the conversation that happened outside the courtroom. So, he wanted to know the one question that I could ask, which tells me that he watches my Facebook Lives, which more power to you. You might learn something. Like I said, I don't have any animosity towards you. I won't drop your name here because I'll be respectful. I don't want people sending you hate mail and shit like that. But, we proceeded to have a conversation. He said, I want to know the one question that you think you can ask that ends all of this. And I just smiled because I know damn good and well this one question ends it all. And he says, I'd really like to know that. I said, well, stick around because I'm going to let this shit show go on through the entire duration. And at the end, I'm going to ask this one question and you guys are going to squander away a bunch of taxpayer dollars, which is really not what they're doing. They're using my good name and my estate to fund everything because they're fucking insolvent and they're broke. And so I subverted the question and I went on to ask some more questions. So I said to him, I said, I offered remedy. You're aware of that, right? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I just told them, all you got to do is issue me an order, sign it with a wedding signature, and I'll go register that bike. But you got to give me the order. And I said, Steinbeck wouldn't do that. Instead, he decided he was going to threaten me. And making threats to me is not a wise idea. I'm not a very nice fucking guy. I don't take too kindly to that bullshit. I put a lot of men's dick in the dirt over threatening me, posturing and doing stupid shit. And I realized that I can't just go around beating the shit out of your agency. But I can do it in other ways. And he's like, okay. I try to leave that violent past behind me because I should be above that by now. There's a time and a place for it. Don't get me wrong. But there's a better way of handling it. So the conversation carries on. And I said, so I offered remedy that way. I offered remedy by telling him to show me how to register my private household consumer goods, not primarily used for commercial purposes. Found in the UCC 9-102 subsection 23. He just kind of looked at me. He was, well, I'll look that up. I've never heard of that. Of course you haven't. You're never taught that because you're taught how to fleece the American people. You're not taught how to protect the American way of life. You're taught to make sure that they're all engaged in commerce so you can fleece their estates. Well, I don't know that that's true. So, well, you're going to have to look it up. He says, Derek, the other day in court, you mentioned the IRS and you mentioned Title 26, 2203, 2603, 2002, 2001. And he said, you mentioned that I had to be independently bonded. Where's that at? We never learned that in law school. I said, of course you didn't, because they want you to be liable. So they have a plausible deniability, you see? And he said, well, would you mind telling me what that code is again? I said, that's Title 26, 2032, AE11. So he writes it down. I said, you mean to tell me that you're not compliant with Title 26, 2032, AE11, and that you're independently bonded to do business here in this country? And he goes, no. I said, well, that's pretty bad. He goes, well, what's that mean? I said, that means because you just admitted that to me, the next time we go to court, I'm going to compel the court to make you fill out a 433A and a 433B because you openly admitted that you're not independently bonded as you should be. Which means I'm going to need a complete list of all your fucking assets because what you're doing is bringing forward a false claim, fraud upon the court without a victim. Well, he says, well, it's not a false claim. I said, oh, really? I said, is this, are these criminal charges? He said, yeah. I said, in order to constitute a crime, there must be a victim. Can you tell me who the victim is? Well, it's the state. I said, where's your warrant of attorney for the state? Where's your contract with the man or woman known and identified as Mr. and Mrs. State? He goes, well, Derek, you know that the state isn't a man or a woman. I said, I know exactly what the fucking state is. My point to you is this, You don't fucking have a crime because it's an impossibility for me to have hurt the corporation. Period. It doesn't have emotions. It don't have feelings. It don't have fucking thumbs. It don't have a heartbeat. It don't have a fucking pulse. So you standing on the fact that this is criminal is fraud upon the court. Because it isn't criminal. It's a matter of civil contract. And you don't have a contract either. I see no facts and evidence on that record either. So I get done saying that, and I finally said, you know what? I'm going to be a real nice guy and just go tell you the question that ends all this bullshit. I'm going to say it to you. I'll give you a way out. I'm giving him a way out. I'm actually telling him exactly how I'm going to prove with one question they don't have any fucking authority. He said, okay, I'm ready. What is it? Now, he had a cell phone in his pocket. Maybe he was recording. Maybe he wasn't. If I was him, I would have been, because there was a wealth of knowledge being dropped to him. I said, the question is, and I'm going to ask you this mano a mano, man to man. We're going to separate you from your official capacity right now as special prosecutor on this case. I said, man to man, can you force me to enter into a contract and it be legally binding? He goes, abso-fucking-lutely not. Those are his words, abso-fucking-lutely not. I said, okay. So as a man, and I being a man, you're telling me that there's no way you can compel me to enter into a contract and it be legally binding if it's against my will, not of my own free volition, it's not binding, right? He goes, correct. There would be no legal claim that could be made against you for a contract that you didn't knowingly, willingly, and intentionally enter into, that you were coerced into entering, is not a legally binding contract enforceable in the legal system. He starts to look a little foggy, a little hazy of the eyes. Like, where are you going with this? I said, all right, so you just admitted to me, off the record, that as a man, you can't compel me to enter into a contract and it be legally binding. No, I can't do that. I said, then what the fuck gives a corporation the right to force a man to enter into a fucking contract through their trustees and it be legally binding? And you can just see it in his eyes. Just the stupor, the look on his face is, holy fuck, that's a good point. So I proceeded to tell this man, this can all go away right now. You give me an order to go register that motorcycle, and I'll go register it right now, but you need to sign it with wedding signature. Guess what he said? I'm not going to do that. Of course you're not, because it's not the fucking law, and you don't want to assume the liability of giving me an order, because I don't fucking work for free, and involuntary servitude shall not be had, and I'll be fucking damned if I go register that fucker with an order from you, and you're not going to get a true bill due and owing. And I am not cheap. Ooh, I'm not cheap. I be cheap and free to all the God-fearing, God-loving people. Absolutely. That's why I do classes at $100 donation. Cheap. I had other friends doing them for $5, $10, $6,000. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that because I feel that it's not a just way of doing that. I don't need a Maserati. I don't need $5 million fucking house. I don't need that shit in my life. All right? I need the people to wake the fuck up, so it needs to be feasible for them to be able to participate, because it's a game of numbers, like Jim Rohn says. It's a game of numbers. He was a multi-level marketer, and like I tell you guys, I'm an entrepreneur, so I look at this stuff differently than many people. Why charge $10,000 and only have 6 people show up when I know damn good and well it's a game of numbers? So charge, ask for a donation of 100 and have 1,000 people show up. Now you're making a fucking difference. Now you're making a difference. Walmart did not become big because Walmart charged the maximum MSRP on products. Walmart said, give me a fucking penny, that's good enough. Because if 100 million people a day give me a fucking penny, we'd be all right. We'll be okay. If I make a penny off every product, and my stores are vast, and I'm growing, and I have the potential to show the growth over a series of years, by only making a penny off every product, and I have 100 million people giving me a penny a day. Well, you do the math, ladies and gentlemen. Does that model work? Yes, it does. So he wouldn't give me an order and sign it with a wedding signature. He wants to make a deal with me. He says, man, I just want to make a deal with you. I don't want to take your guns from you. Well, first of all, you don't have the authority to take my guns from me. Secondly, if you tried, you'd end up in a fucking pine box. That's a fact. All right? That's something I absolutely will not put up with. So, in one end, he's saying that he's personally responsible for taking the ability for me to have quote-unquote firearms, which firearms, by the federal definition, is a shotgun with less than an 18-inch barrel that's been sawed off. I don't have anything like that. And even if I wanted to have something like that, it would be none of their fucking business. Because I can do what I want so long as I'm not hurting anybody. The conversation then continued on, because I was telling him about being independently bonded under Title 26, 2032 AE 11. And he said, you know what? I think the IRS should be abolished. That's a ballsy motherfucking statement coming from an agent and agency who's charged with the duties of collecting debts from debtors on behalf of the IRS. You openly admit to me that you're a tax protester? And not only that, that you hide securities and income and all kinds of fucking negotiable instruments all the time with your bar crony, bar association buddies, and you're bringing a case against me about fucking tax evasion? Holy shit, Watson. How fucking dumb do you have to be? I mean, that was just the most ignorant, off-the-wall statement. I didn't see that coming. It came out of left field, and I was so bewildered by his statement. I was like, damn. This guy really doesn't know what he's doing. Although he may be good at swindling people out of shit in the courtroom with the assistance of a fucking administrator, he doesn't really understand the system or how it works when he openly admits to me that he feels the IRS should be abolished. Which tells me that they're not reporting these court cases like they're supposed to be to the IRS. So when an order is made, what they're supposed to be doing is reporting the carryover basis of the tax evaluation to the IRS, because the man who makes the order is liable for the fucking taxes. I'm just so fucking dumbfounded. Here's a guy bringing a case, enforcing a case, I should say. He didn't bring it. Stephen Robert Bowers did. He's fucking more ignorant than this other guy, who tells me that the IRS should be abolished. And yet you're coming after me for a tax? And I was absconding from the fact that in order for an obligation such as a tax to fall upon me, I'd have to be a U.S. citizen. I'd have to be a fucking debtor. And I'm not a debtor. I know who I am. I'm a creditor. And I know that. So in the court system, just like the International Covenant on Civil Rights, it's not self-executing. So the court system has been manipulated to no longer protect your rights, but rather to operate in the negative. And what I mean by that is, if you don't know your rights, you don't assert your rights, you don't claim your rights, you don't fucking have them, period. Many people grow up in the indoctrinated school system believing, oh, I have rights and the court system protects my rights and their decisions are just, fair, and honorable. If you only knew the fucking truth about what they really do. Let me help you out a little bit. Sixth Amendment clearly articulates you have the right to face your accuser and the witnesses. If the state's bringing a case, when are you going to see Kris Kringle, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy? Because I expect all them motherfuckers to be there too. You get my poignant point? The state is no more real than the fucking Easter Bunny. So when these cronies come in, bar association thugs, working on behalf of their fucking principal to launder your securities, whisk them away, and benefit from them later as abandoned property, which is what they're doing, all under the guise that you have somehow harmed the state. I mean, I could stop here and do a power stance right now. And there's some jackwagon with a fucking police car and a badge and a uniform came around the corner. He'd write me a ticket for it, and somehow I had violated the state. State had suffered an injury. Well, who's the injured party? They say, oh, well, the people are. Well, great. There's 1.9 million people in Nebraska. You better fucking rent the fucking football stadium, because I need them to all articulate and swear to, under the pains and penalties of perjury, in the form of an affidavit or an asseveration, and stipulate to a polygraph test how I, a man, caused them harm, injury, damage, and loss. Ain't gonna happen. Morning sunshine, ain't gonna happen. This is how these fuckers piss on your back, try and convince you it's raining. I don't know about you, but that shit don't work for me. You got to invoke your rights, ladies and gentlemen. I waive all benefits without God. That statement is so profound. What does it mean? It means anything that man created, I don't fucking need, nor do I want. You can fuck off and shove off with your fucking benefits. Out the window they go. Because I don't need anything but the Heavenly Father, who gave his only begotten son. Do you guys know how powerful that parable is? Gave his only begotten son. I want you to look at your offspring and decide which one you're going to euthanize for the greater good of mankind. Could you do it? I sure the fuck couldn't do it. I thought about it one time. It's like, would I have the strength to do that, to save mankind? To fucking know that my own offspring would be put in imminent danger and no longer be around. And I fucking cried for 2 days. I cried for 2 days about that, because the love that he had or has for what he has created, he gave his only begotten son. I mean, as a man, I couldn't fathom doing that. So what are you fighting for? What's your reason why? Who are you going to serve at the end of the day? They ask me, Derek, how do you plead in court? I don't fucking beg to any man. Never have, never fucking will. If you're looking at me to get on my knees and grovel, you are talking to the wrong motherfucking man. That ain't happening. Not today, not tomorrow. Next week ain't looking very fucking good for you. It ain't happening. Not getting on my knees. And when I am on my knees, that's because the Heavenly Father is before me. I will be on my knees then, because I understand who the true sovereign is. I exhibit sovereignty because I was made in his image. That doesn't mean that the laws don't apply to me. You got a lot of officers that go, oh, Derek, you think the laws don't apply to you? No, quite the contrary. I enforce a law that's superior to yours. Yours was written for the fucking heathens, the ones without morality, the ones that aren't God-fearing, the ones who have to be told what the fuck to do, otherwise they would run around doing nefarious shit all the time. I'm not one of those men. I'm not one of those people. You see, because my old man would bust a belt across my ass for being disrespectful when I was a young offspring. There was zero tolerance for that. I remember the principal in Indiana. I was in school in Indiana when I was a kid. Principal come and grab me by my arm for something. I don't know, I was fist fighting or something. I was all these ornery little shit. I don't remember what I did, but I did something that warranted the principal coming in and snatching me out of the lunchroom. And he grabbed me by the arm, and I said, who the hell do you think you are? I said something to that effect. Who do you think you are grabbing me like that, you know? You can't do that. And he whips out his billfold and flops it open like an FBI agent. Because I'm the principal. Well, all that was in there was his driver's license. I don't know why he pulled that move out. Maybe he wished he was a cop once upon a time or something. That's something that's always resonated in my mind. But the next thing that really sticks out in my mind is when he took me to his office, bent me over his damn fucking desk, because corporal punishment was still allowed in Indiana at that time, and he broke out a ping pong paddle. And he gave me 3 good licks. And I said, you just wait till my dad hears about this. Boy, was I a fucking fool. That's how my dad would have, and he turned around and gave me 2 more licks. I had 2 more licks out of the deal. And I was blown away by it. Why is he giving me licks too? This other adult male put his hands on me. He shouldn't be putting his fucking hands on me. My old man was saying, you shouldn't have been doing what you were doing. The government alleged government comes in and tells you can't discipline your kids anymore. Some people are against corporal punishment while others support it. I don't know. I probably could have used a few more licks in my day. I was ornery. Had them coming. There's plenty of shit I got away with that I'm sure if they'd have known, I got more licks. The point of this is we only learn from things that are painful. The things that are pleasurable, so often we learn nothing from. Instant gratification often leads to just disappointment, you know. It's great at the time, but as you continue on, you realize it wasn't all that grand. Things that are worth having are worth fighting for, and they take time and patience, due diligence, heartache. It's all part of enjoying it. At the end of the day, you realize what you had to endure to get there. Freedom isn't free. It never has been free. So this attorney, as the fire in the old kitchen's getting stoked and it's getting hotter, and he's starting to admit that he can't force me to enter into a contract, and he's not willing to sign an order for me to go do it, and I am volunteering at this point. I will go and register that bike. One of two ways. You show me how to do it as a private household private household consumer good, not primarily used for commercial purposes, but used rather for my leisure and my pleasure, that doesn't require registration through the DMV, which is commercial and a private corporation in its nature, by its nature. It's not part of the state. Might be entered into a cooperative agreement with the state for the benefit of the state, but it is not part of the state. It's a single and separate entity, all right, under the guise that it is part of the state, but the DMV is not part of the state. It's got its own separate DUNS number. It's got its own separate fucking banking account, all right? This cat getting out of the bag in my court case could save people tens of thousands of dollars a year. There's this Denali truck, just a couple people know about. You know what? $10,000 to register it. $78,000 truck. $10,000. So you can roam around on the streets with it. But there's a problem with that. It's not being used for commercial activity. And the only reason I would have to register it would be if I was going to engage in commerce. But that's clearly not the intent. These people would be out hundreds of millions of dollars a year per state if men and women just understood what I'm talking about. And there's a beautiful, brilliant former senator going through a rough road here. Shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, rattle, and roll. I feel like I'm driving a K10 Blazer. Holy shit. There's a beautiful senator named Dick Marple. He's on Facebook, he's on YouTube, write that down. Dick Marple, who goes up against the judiciary. And he points out the fact that he was a state senator. He's not going to pass the bar. He understands what they're doing there. And that he is not obligated in any way, shape, or form to register as private household consumer goods primarily used for pleasure and leisure. That it's not for commercial purposes. This man is extraordinarily learned. In fact, he helped construct some of the statutes that are put in place that are in harmony with the Constitution to protect your rights. That's how learned this man is. He used the power that was granted to him to do the right thing and put statutes together that protected you from the corporation from encroaching upon your rights. Hold on, I gotta harass this guy. Boy, you are looking good.
What's that?
You're looking good. That Arizona heat did you some good.
Thanks for lying.
Shit, you melted like a popsicle while you were out there. You guys moving out there then?
About 3 weeks yet.
It's too hot. Why are you doing it in the summer? So you know you never want to go there or what?
Yeah.
We'll see ya.
Wait till it's snowing here. I'll think of you.
I'll come visit you. Don't you worry. I got plans. I'm following the geese this year. Oh. Good people in these small communities. You just got to reach out to them and say hi once in a while. Anyway, long story short. When these people are bringing claim, it's actually a complaint. And a complaint only applies to employees, fellow employees, period. So the court system comes in and they go, oh, well, you didn't rebut the presumption of being a corporation, so you're a corporation now. None of this shit is told to you in the court at all. Oh, back to Dick Marple. Yes, Dick Marple. He didn't win his case. I'm sure he's appealing it. But Dick Marple on YouTube, former state senator, guy's a badass. Absolutely love him. And he projected that, I believe he's from New Jersey, that in New Jersey, if they were doing things right, they would, the state of New Jersey, the principal corporation of New Jersey, would lose out on something like $1.5 trillion a year in registration. And that's why they won't honor it. That's why they're not honoring it, because they're going to lose out on all that life source energy, and they're afraid that if you, the people, get to keep all that stuff, you might just grow half a brain. You might actually have time to research. See, their goal is to make it so you have to work so fucking hard you don't have time to study what I'm studying. They want you dumb, just smart enough to fucking clock in at 8 o'clock, punch out at 5 o'clock, and have a fucking beer and think you're free. That's what they need you to be, so they can continue to tax you to oblivion. There's one thing I've noticed as I began to study. You can't tax somebody into prosperity, and you can't pass enough legislation to get people to be moral. You can't legislate people into morality. It doesn't work. So what are they doing? Well, they're creating all this legislation that you think applies to you so they can charge you up, so they can unjustly steal from you in a tax that isn't warranted nor merited. It's an excise tax. Everything's a fucking excise tax. It's all excise taxes. It's all about stealing from you. It don't have anything to do with instilling morals or quality of life in your communities. They don't. If they wanted to do that, they would have kept God in the fucking school system, huh? How about this? You really think they give a fuck about you? How come they're telling your kids that 2 + 2 is 5 as long as they can bullshit their way through it? Common Core? You think that's for the benefit of this fucking country? For mankind? Come on. And what's sad about it is they're insulting every last fucking one of you who contributes to their fucking way of life. The politicians who are living high on the fucking hog next to their bankers and bureaucrats and fucking lobbyists. And they're playing you guys for a fucking fool while they dumb down your offspring. Some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life are homeschooled. Some of them live around here, and they are very successful business people. And they're extraordinarily articulate. And their mom and their dads homeschool them. And they're just brilliant, absolutely brilliant people. God-fearing people, good morals, good ethics, good business practices, and they do very well for themselves. It'd be interesting to see if you could rewind the hands of time and put those same people in the public school system and see if it would have turned out the same way. I'm venturing to say it probably wouldn't have. Maybe, but maybe not. The fact of the matter is we'll never know. But one thing I can tell you is I used to enjoy country schools out here when I was a kid. The elder kids would teach the younger kids. The teacher would oversee all the kids, all the students, and you pretty much taught each other the literature and the language and mathematics and everything in there. And then they come in and they abolish all those small country schools. And those small country schools were, for me, advanced learning places, because you were in there with kids who were 18, even though you were only 10. And the 18-year-olds would help the 10-year-olds understand their curriculum after they got done with their curriculum. Everybody learned together. It was so unique. It was one of the coolest learning experiences I'd ever been involved in. And they did away with all that here in Nebraska, which is sad. Some of the farmers got together and tried to, donate to keep the teacher in the little tiny schoolhouse. And it was a little house is all it was. Out in the middle of the country, there were a number of them. And some of the farmers got together and, they would donate $1,000, $100,000, whatever, to keep the school going. And it just got to the point where, the legislation's passed. We need all your kids to be in our system. Why? Because they need you registered in their fucking shit show so they can monetize that shit. Tell you what, you want to stop the forced vaccination? You get your whole community, pull your kids out of school this year, they'll turn around and say, oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We would really like it if you guys would come back to our facilities because they're monetizing your chattel paperwork, that birth certificate. So earlier we were talking about the sheriff having to give a birth certificate in order to hold his office because that's how they're bonding him. That's how he's bonding himself with that security. And same thing with the school. What's the first thing they ask you for when you enroll your offspring into a school? You got a birth certificate and a social security number? Well, what the fuck do you need that for? Don't you just want to know her name so she can go to school so little Susie can become educated? Well, you see, we can't accept her or enroll her into school unless you're going to give us those things. Why? Because they can't get paid unless they have those instruments, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah. This old boy over here has done a lot of fucking research. I ain't just squawking and talking. I walk the walk. I talk the talk. I can prove everything I'm fucking telling you. So, in the court, the 12 presumptions of law, don't you fucking drag your feet. Get your ass up off your couch. If you're involved in a court case right now, and you submit that 12 presumptions of law in that court case. It's found at cornelllaw.edu or just type into the internet 12 presumptions of law. Every last one of those points needs to be rebutted and rebuked. And then you need to put on, at the end of it, I see no facts and evidence, whether material or presentable, to the contrary, and believe none exist. Now it's a matter of law. You took it from a matter of administration, presumption, and assumption. You took it and turned it into a judicial matter. You see, when the ministerial administrator says, if you're not going to plea today, if you're not going to plea, then I have to enter a plea for you. And I'm going to plea not guilty. And we're going to set this matter for trial. Well, I accept your offer of a plea of not guilty. Is that judicial or administrative? They give you a way out if you know how the game's played. They give you a way out. Is that judicial or an administrative finding? I agree with it. Well, you belong in jail. I agree. You does belong in jail. You's a fucking criminal. You runs around all day long raising havoc. You being the all capital letter name. That's you. That's not me as a man. I am, for I am, because I am. And I am not you. Real simple. Waive all benefits without God. There are no facts in dispute. Why are there no facts in dispute? This one was hard for me to wrap my head around. There are no facts in dispute because there are no facts on the fucking record. Oh, we got an affidavit here, we got this, we got that. The affidavit's nothing more than hearsay. Nothing more than hearsay until it's testified to. And then when it's testified to, especially by an agent and agency, now you can hem them up for perjury. They're bearing false witness against you. I heard on the telephone. I don't give a shit what you heard on the telephone. I don't give a shit who you think you were talking to. Can you prove it? Oh, I believe I was. Well, if I wanted your opinion, you know the old saying. I won't go through it again. Some people say they'd beat it out of you. But really, their opinion doesn't matter. So you're trying to convict a man on your opinion? Well, fuck, if that's the case, then everybody in here is guilty. Everybody's guilty. That's my opinion. Then they try and tell you your opinion don't matter. Oh, but his opinion matters. All that shit, it don't make any cotton picking sense. So anyway, that's kind of the story about the lawyer who wants to abolish the IRS, all while absconding from taxes. And he asked me, so what happens because I'm not independently bonded with the IRS, Derek, under Title 26, 2032 AE 11? So, well, I got to bring in a 433A and a 433B because I'm going to have to liquidate all your assets for causing me harm, damage, and loss. Notice how I don't use the word injury. Injury is something a person sustains. Harm, damage, and loss is something a man sustains. In the good book, he's broken the law. Well, what law, Derek, do you speak of? Thou shalt not bear false witness against his fellow brothers and sisters. He has broken a law. That is a fucking law. Real simple. You want to put the judge on point? Form 56 his ass. Make him a fiduciary trustee over the constructive trust, because if it's not criminal, and how do we prove it's not criminal, ladies and gentlemen? There's no man or woman bringing the claim. It's a complaint. It's not criminal. It's civil in nature. So, because of that fact, the only thing it can be is a constructive trust or a resulting trust. However you want to look at it, don't really make a difference to me. But if you're going to identify it as a trust, you might want to be able to identify the players of the game. You got the beneficiary, the grantor settler, the trustee. Well, you walk into that courtroom, they presume and assume you to be the trustee. Well, if they can presume and assume, allow me to go ahead and set that fucking record for you, Judge. I am the intended beneficiary, the heir, and the assigned. I am not the trustee over this constructive and resulting trust. Let the record reflect. Is there a man or woman in here today who is willing to verify under the pains and penalties of perjury through affidavit or asseveration and swear under oath, facing 1 year in jail and a $10,000 fine, that I am not the beneficiary? Let the record reflect. Silence is acquiescence by tacit agreement. I am, in fact, the intended beneficiary of all these securities and this subject matter. I do not consent to be warehoused, placed in incarceration, jail as surety on behalf of the principal. I bestow that benefit and assign that benefit to the prosecutor. Now, wait a minute. I don't want my bar buddy going to jail, Derek. Can we come to some other kind of agreement, perhaps, that might be beneficial for all parties involved? Well, sure there, administrator. We could go ahead and balance these books. You could appoint the proper trustee over the said subject matter, bring forward those securities so they can be properly endorsed and negotiated, and you can zero out this account. That's what we could do. Now, nobody's got to go to jail. Everybody stands in honor and under the Power of Appointment Act of 1951, with y'all being fiduciary trustees, reaffirmed in 63 Charlie Am Jurisprudence 2D, all public officials are, in fact, trustees of the American people. We can affirm once again that the Constitution is sacred and has prevailed, that the constructive trust and the highest law on the land has been upheld, and nobody has to atone for their sins for trespass by breach of trust. There is no money. Ain't no money. It's all securities. Everything's a security and everything's an excise tax. That's how this economic system works. And don't take it from me. Go do your own research. Go do your own research. So, when the court system, when some jackass bar association attorney... Oh, let's talk about disqualifying a judge real quick. Let's talk about that. They always talk about how they're non-biased third party, right? You ask them, are you a non-biased third party set to rule on this matter? They always have to say yes. They have to fucking say yes. Their silence is acquiescence. You get that on the record too. They want to be silent and mute, or not mute on the situation. Your silence is acquiescence by tacit agreement. I appreciate the fact that you're a non-biased third party individual set to rule on this matter. That's fantastic. Are you currently a bar card club holding member, paying union dues to that association? Yes or no? No, I've removed myself from the bar. Good. Glad to hear that. Do you have the facts and evidence to present to this court to prove that you have done so? Right? They'll try and abscond from having to produce that shit. Let the record reflect there are no facts and evidence to the contrary, and I believe none exist. Now it's a matter of law. Now I want to do a mandamus to compel that cocksucker to bring forward his documentation that shows that he's removed himself, done a rescission of contract from the Bar Association, because it is a contract, ladies and gentlemen. Now, even if he can produce that, because they might, I don't know whether they can or can't. I really don't know. But even if they can produce that, the next question should be, can you produce your rescission of your oath to a foreign allegiance, a foreign agency known as the Bar Association? Because an oath is for life. That's a life pledge commitment. So, where is your rescission of your oath to the Bar Association? I need you to produce that. They're never going to be able to produce that because they don't do it. I highly doubt that they remove themselves from the bar, but nobody ever asks the questions. So on presumption and assumption, they presume and assume that you agree with their bullshit rhetoric. Because they can't produce said documentation and paperwork and prove that they're a disinterested third party set to rule on the matter, bye-bye, see you later. You got to recuse yourself. And if you don't recuse yourself, guess what? You're fired. You're fucking fired. In the words of Donald Trump, fired. Fuck off my television show. See you later. Get out of my courtroom. You're fired. That's simple. What's he going to do? Argue with you? Remember, he who makes the statement has the onus of probandi, and the burden of proof falls upon him. You can't prove that you're a third-party, non-biased individual. Bye, Felicia. Have a good one. See ya. That simple. So those are some tools in your arsenal, and you do have the power to fire them. You have the power to compel them to bring forward their GPA in law school and see what they graduated with. Fuck, some of these idiots that are lording over you fucking probably had a GPA at 2.5. They're dumber than a box of fucking rocks. Not that a piece of paper makes you intelligent, but wouldn't you like to know what the fucking judge's GPA was? Wouldn't you want to know what his grades were in school and law school? I sure the fuck would. Just being practical, right? You gonna let a brain surgeon perform surgery on your fucking brain and not ask him how well he did in school? Fuck. Good luck. I'm nervous about going under the knife. If anybody ever wants to chop me up like a fucking piece of chicken, I'm gonna have to see some credentials. I'm gonna need to see your fucking grades. I'm gonna need to talk to some of your constituents and find out whether you're an absolute jackass or you're damn good at what you do. I'm gonna need to know some things. Why we go into court and put our life in imminent peril and danger of being warehoused as surety while these jackasses run around and take our securities, claim them as being abandoned when they never fully disclose the nature of their fucking operation. I know the cause. Show me the nature. Am I not entitled to the nature and cause of the allegations being brought against me? Well, we told you the cause. Yeah, now explain the nature, you cocksuckers. It's to lie, loot, plunder, steal my fucking credit, you fuckers. Anyway, just ranting around, thinking today, sharing my some of my humble opinions with you, some of the things that I do in court, why I've been successful in a lot of instances is asking questions. Remember, your 6 best friends. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. They are your best friends. You make a statement, the burden falls on you. I make statements all the time. I get my ass chewed from it by my constituents, my colleagues, my friends who are very, very learned. They go, dude, stop making statements. Stop doing that. Even if you can prove it, stop fucking doing it. Ask questions, dude. Ask the questions. So ask the questions. These people are all-knowing, all-powerful, and I love clowning the shit out of them because they're not all-knowing. They're not all-powerful. They are not fucking God. So don't give them the ability to pretend to be God and lord over you as though they created you and you're subject to them. Put their nuts on the chopping block. I hope you share this with your friends and your family. Just a little Saturday morning traveling session. Helping people ascend to the mind and be cognitive of what's really going on around them. Do you have an investigator connection? What kind of investigator? I know a plumber, he investigates shit all day long. You want to talk to him? He's a hell of an investigator. I'm just playing with it. That's just me being a smart ass. You are the investigator. Why do you need an investigator when you can be the investigator? I once told the judge, I said, you guys want to keep fucking with me? I'll hire a private investigator and follow you around everywhere. You think that you've come up with some kind of fucking dirty laundry on me when I openly talk about all the shit I've ever done in my life? I talk about it to let people know that I acknowledge that I've made mistakes and that I can correct them. See, that's what makes me different from a politician. When I make a mistake, I'll tell you I made a mistake, and I'm going to correct that thought process in my brain that allowed me to make such a mistake, and I can assure you that it won't happen again because I've acknowledged it. Which means if it happens again, now it's with intent and ill will and malice, and now there's a cause of action against me, and I don't ever want to be in dishonor. A politician all day long signs bullshit legislation and will profess to you that he didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't read it all the way. He didn't understand it all. Plausible deniability. He'll never admit that he was fucking wrong and that he shouldn't have done it. Instead, he'll find 1,000 fucking reasons to justify his action, and that right there is bullshit. The last public school learn. Who, what, when, how, and why. That's exactly what they try and get out of you in the public school system. They don't want you asking those questions anymore. That's why I didn't do very good in school. Because I would always ask these questions and it just piss off the teachers to the point where they had great disdain for me. Oh, we don't want him in here. He's a distraction. He's disrupting the rest of the kids because he's asking all these questions and the questions are frivolous. And so I get into the court, I start asking questions and I hear the same thing from the judge. Lo and behold, your questions are frivolous. I heard that shit growing up in fucking school. So here you are supposed to be the knowing, the factor of knowing everything and being able to render a decision based on your intelligence, and yet I ask you a question and you have no fucking knowledge. None. How the fuck are you gonna rule on anything if you don't know anything? So they indoctrinate our kids to believe in presumption and assumption and fallacies and bullshit, and then take away their ability, and I'm not sure how they're doing it, but you know, a little kid, when they're young, everything's new to them. So everything's who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who, what, when, where, and I'll never forget it. Piper was like that. Oh man, I'm like, shit, 1,001 questions today. Oh, what am I gonna fucking do? Gonna try and answer them to the best of my ability, and the ones I can't answer, I'm just gonna be honest with her. Hey, I don't know the answer, but together we can figure it out. Why doesn't the court system do that? Hey, I don't know the answer to that, but together we can figure that out. That's a great question, Derek. I am the trier of the fact here, and you've proposed a wonderful question. We're going to take a brief recess. I'm going to go into my office, and I'm going to see if I can get you that answer. In the meantime, go ahead and step out in the hall. Use your cellular device. Do some research as well, Derek. Let's see if we can figure this out, because I am here in good faith, good conscience, and for good reason to assure tranquility and peace within the community and make sure that nobody's pulling a fast one on this court. Because if you're trying to create fraud upon the court in here today, you're calling me a dumbass, and I don't appreciate being called a dumbass, right? That's how every judge should be thinking. Oh, this fucking bar attorney's going to question my integrity and my intelligence? Really? You're going to bring fraud into this fucking court? Oh, I'm going to spank your ass. No, they don't do that. You want to know why they don't do that? Because they're in cahoots with each other to steal from you out of your fucking account. How did these accounts get manifested into existence? Well, the Federal Reserve Act of 1933, created in 1910 at Jekyll Island, and consequently enough, enacted in 1913. Wait. Consummated in 1910. I believe in 1913, it was finally drawn up, and in 1933, it was finally enforced. Woodrow Wilson. There we go. Sorry about the timeline discrepancy. I wanted to correct that. It's very important. Anyway, with that said, love you guys. We need people like you to infiltrate the court system as judges. Well, it's not about infiltration, ladies and gentlemen. It's about putting together your grand juries and removing these lying, looting, pandering pieces of shit out of your community. Paul Harvey did a beautiful little ditty on it in 1933, in Massachusetts, not 1933. They actually removed all esquires from the colonies in Massachusetts, and somehow those weasel rat bastards made it back. And here we are today with them usurping power otherwise not delegated to them, all under the guise that they're operating in the best interest of the people while working for the government, which violates Titles of Nobility Act. No man or woman can hold public office while holding a title of nobility from a foreign nation or foreign corporation or a monarch. But here we are, allowing it to happen. We are the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, because we can acknowledge and admit that we are the problem, we can acknowledge and admit that we are the fucking solution as well. And that's the point I'm trying to make to you guys. So I love you guys. I'm going to go try and do something productive. Yeah. We'll talk to you soon.